We are here with Lorne Weil, Executive Chairman of Inspired Entertainment, a small but growing and emerging company in the gaming industry. And Lorne, before we talk more specifically about Inspired, we have to talk about the subject of the year, and that's COVID-19. How has it affected your business, and how do you see it playing out in the near and midterm for Inspired and for the industry?
Well, the first part of the question is easier to answer than the second part of the question. The immediate impact on us of COVID, which really hit, sometime in March when everybody else got it, was it shut down our retail business literally everywhere in the world. And so our quarterly EBITDA, let's say, which had been at a rate of about, close to $20 million a quarter, dropped down to $2 million, which wasn't, to put it mildly, a very pleasant experience. But then very quickly what happened was our online business took off like crazy, both the online virtual sports and our online, what we call gaming, which is really our slot games on gaming websites. It just took off like nothing we ever could possibly have imagined. And because that business is so much more profitable than our conventional retail business and so much less capital intensive, that really carried us through the worst part of the COVID. And by the third quarter, all of our retail business started coming back on. By the end of the third quarter, it was all back on. But our online business maintained the level that it had grown to make up for the shutting down of the combination of the shutting down of the retail gaming world and the shutting down of all sports. So when there were no live sports, people had nothing to bet on except for virtuals. So it was fantastic for us. And again, now where things are back pretty much to normal, the online business and the virtual business has actually continued to grow. So the upshot of the COVID is that it has caused a significant swing in the mix of our business in the direction of revenue that is much more profitable and that is much less capital intensive. As far as going forward, a couple of weeks ago, I would have said, it's all over and everything's great. But now, everywhere in the world, there seems to be the grumblings about maybe not as catastrophic wave as it was back in March. And I think now everybody is more prepared for it. But in the short run, it's hard to say what the impact will be because there's really no way to predict what the impact of COVID is. If it stays the way it is now, then our business will continue to be fantastic. But if a second wave, as they're calling it, becomes a reality, then obviously it will change everything. Not everything, but change some things.
We have a tendency when we think about it, Inspired, to think about virtual sports because that's the hot product. And yet your company actually gets more revenue out of the gaming machines business and out of what you call the acquired business.
Yeah.
Gaming machines, for example, are almost a third of revenue and half of EBITDA. Is that part of your business developing?
Yeah. So it's a terrific business. And really the acquired businesses aren't any different. Right now we're calling them the acquired businesses just because we didn't get around to thinking about another name. But in reality, it's a server-based gaming business, just like our core server-based gaming business. It just addresses different marketplaces, which I'll come back to in a second. But the way I think about it, I mean, I think the way people should think about it is traditionally in the gaming machine business in the States, you know, with the traditional American suppliers, have tended to think of the business as being divided between machine sales and what they call generally gaming ops. So in one case, the revenue and the profit is coming from one-time sales of machines, which tend to be very cyclical and difficult, particularly in times like this. And gaming ops, which is a recurring revenue model where the machine is placed on the floor and it generates a participation revenue stream for the supplier. So historically, everybody loves the participation business or the so-called gaming ops business, and they don't love the sales business so much. All of our business is by that definition would be gaming ops, or 99% of it. But the difference is that in North America, the gaming ops bit, the machines tend to be, as they say, on wheels. So they're very, very profitable for the supplier as long as the machine is there. But once people get sick of the machine and don't want to play it anymore, then the casino or whatever the venue is gets to send the machine back. In our business, that doesn't happen for a couple of reasons. Contractually, it doesn't happen because we have multi-year contracts that make it certain that this equipment will stay in the customer's venue. But the reason why the customer is willing to do that is because the people never get sick of the machines because of the fact that they're server-based. So we introduce typically at least one new title every month. So anybody who goes to the places where our machines are is constantly seeing new games and never gets sick of them, because by the time he even thinks about getting sick of it, there's 10 new games for him to play. So these machines tend to stay out there for a long time, and they generate a incredibly consistent, incredibly predictable cash flow. So it's a very, very good business. The original business, the original Inspired business was predominantly in betting shops around Europe. So all of the William Hills, Betfreds, Paddy Power type players in the UK, Lottomatica, Cecil, all of the big players in Italy, and we have we're probably in at least 4,000 betting shops of OPAP in Greece. What you referred to before, what we've been calling the acquired business, essentially does exactly the same thing, but it does it in pubs, and it does it in what in the UK they call motorway services, which we call like a truck stop. In again, what is unique to the UK are basically family entertainment centers that are generally located in vacation locales, and we tend, again, manage those on a facilities management basis. So the great thing about it now with the acquired business is when we develop a new game every month, we now have many, many more marketplaces and a much, much, much larger installed base to introduce those games across. And now more and more and more, we're taking those games and putting them online. And again, so we get a tremendous benefit from the server-based gaming platform, because the games that we're developing for all of those customers, the pubs, the betting shops, the truck stops, etc., bingo halls, we then put on the internet, and they tend to perform incredibly well. So that's really what our machine business is about. So it's more of a gaming ops, facilities management. We call it server-based gaming because the primary function of the server is to enable new content to constantly be downloaded into these machines. And running, in the UK, we probably have, 20,000 machines. So having 20,000 machines running off a server where we can address any one of those 20,000 machines and put any game we want into any machine is not trivial technical exercise.
One of the things that you've mentioned in the United States is slot routes. You've entered Illinois, and you think your products are well suited for that.
Right. Exactly. They're they're perfect for Illinois, because Illinois is one of the few jurisdictions right now in the United States that has a protocol known as G2S. And G2S is a protocol that allows for the downloading of new content into existing machines. Most other jurisdictions, route jurisdictions in the United States, at least right now, do not have that protocol and do not have technically the capability to download new games into the devices, but Illinois does, and that makes our product perfect for Illinois.
Talking back about the acquired business, this is the gaming terminals that are in pubs and elsewhere that you purchased from Novomatic about a year ago now.
Right.
And it contributes a half or so of your revenue, but only about a quarter of the EBITDA. And I know that at the time you purchased it, I think you said synergies maybe would be about 35 million. How are you?
I wish. I wish. I think I might have said at the time that the EBITDA with synergies would be about 35 million. Actually, at this point, we think it's there in a normal circumstance where we weren't dealing with COVID. That number would probably be at a run rate closer to 40, but certainly the synergies weren't unfortunately as much as 35 million.
Okay. This is the time of the year when companies introduce or display the games and products, their newest products, the products they're most proud of. What are 2 or 3 products that you want to make sure people learn about at Inspire?
Yeah, well, I think the three interesting drivers right now, certainly everything to do with our online business is critically important because it's growing so fast. It has such high margins and it has such low capital intensity. So both the online virtual sports and the online slots are growing like mad, and as the mix of our business swings, it makes us more profitable and it makes us less capital intensive. And I think the other thing is what you mentioned, is the machines that we've begun to deliver to Illinois. They've been very, very, very well received. Before COVID hit, we were pretty much the top performing machine with every customer that we had begun to deliver to. And hopefully the world is coming back to normal and we'll resume the trajectory we were on. So I think the virtual sports, the online slot games, and the new machines initially in Illinois, but hopefully other places in the States too.
There's a lot of excitement in the United States today about the proliferation of sports betting, proliferation of online gaming. And I don't think that when you look at the valuations of some of these companies, 45 times 2027 EBITDA and that kind of thing.
Some of them were 45 times 2027's revenue,
right.
Never mind 47 times EBITDA.
But in fact, you have a product in virtual sports that fits right into that niche.
Yeah.
So can you just elaborate a little bit on virtual sports betting?
Yeah, well, what virtual sports is, for people who are watching this interview and have never had any exposure to it, it is an astonishingly realistic computer-generated sporting event. We have now probably close to 20 sports. If you think about what FIFA looks like in soccer, or NBA 2K in basketball, or Madden for football. So our games look like that, but you don't play against the game. Two teams or two tennis players or two golfers play against each other. The game typically lasts 90 seconds or a minute, and you bet on the outcome of that game with exactly the same betting options, point spreads, over, under, et cetera, as you would in a live sporting event. And generally in Europe, where there is legal live sports betting, the virtual sports betting tends to do phenomenally well and be a very, very consistent percent of the total amount of money bet. Generally, that's sort of 15 or 20% of the total. The advantage is that the games last for 90 seconds or 2 minutes, not 4 hours. And there's absolutely no risk to the operator. So unlike regular sports betting, which, if you don't get the point spread right and the wrong team wins by the wrong spread, you can actually lose money. That can't happen in virtual sports because it's just not the way it's played. It's mathematically, it's like a slot game. It's just the operator holds 10%, 90% gets paid back, and the operator doesn't care who wins. So both online and in retail venues where sports betting has proliferated, virtual sports has followed behind remarkably well. So we just introduced virtual sports in Turkey just a couple of weeks ago. And they've had live sports betting in Turkey for a million years. I can't talk about the numbers because it's not public, but all I can tell you is it's taken off in Turkey in a way that is beyond anyone's imagination before we did it, except those of us who have seen this happen before, where you're following on a market that already exists. So it's a terrific product. It's a product that's great online. It's a product that's great in sports books. In Europe, there are at least 2 or 3 national lottery operators who are offering virtual sports, and it performs brilliantly as a lottery game. And ultimately, we're going to try to duplicate that in the United States.
Final question. as briefly as we can. We're running near the end of our allotted time here from Zoom. You're still sort of a development company in some ways. What is the investment thesis for Inspired?
So the investment thesis for Inspired is that we have what I feel is a terrific server-based gaming business that is very predictable, very consistent, and a great cash generator. And we've got tremendous growth in the virtual sports, in the online slots, and in the machine business in the States. All of the latter are very high margin, very low capital. And so the thesis is, as the company grows, which we have been growing significantly, and the mix swings towards the higher margin, higher growth, lower capital intensive parts of the business, it will produce, a disproportionate rate of growth in EBITDA and cash flow, and hopefully, at least at some point in time, will reflect it in the stock price.
Right. You've got a picture behind you of a baseball player. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's Mickey Mantle.
Oh, so
I'll show you.
So you are
I don't know if you can see it. It says, "To Lorne from Mickey Mantle." He actually signed this for me in his restaurant on 59th Street. So years and years ago, there was a restaurant on 59th Street called Mickey Mantle's. It was a wildly popular kind of sports hangout. And my oldest kids, who are now, one's 38, one's 41, they were at the time like 6 and 9, and they were baseball fanatics. And I was at a charity auction where one of the prizes, or one of the things being auctioned, was you got to have lunch with Mickey Mantle in his restaurant, and he would autograph one of these pictures for you. And I knew that if I went home and told my then 6 and 9-year-old that I hadn't bought this, I would have been in very serious trouble. So we won it, and I took the kids to Mickey Mantle's, and we had lunch with him, and he signed the picture.
Great story.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. It was a great overview.
My pleasure, Frank. I'll see you soon. Hope I'll see you in person soon.
Me too.
Okay, bye.